Hey, this is George Montano, CEO of Altus Premier Nutrition. Be sure to check out our new BCA formula Remax on our website at www.altuspremiernutrition.com. Now, on to SuppTalk Radio.
Coming to you from a snowy Massachusetts, this is SuppTalk Radio. Strap yourself in as we are ready for another fun and wild ride. My guest is an NASM certified personal trainer, drug-free bodybuilder, and cancer survivor. We'll pick his brain on supplementation, diet, exercise, and potentially get a few competition tidbits. Allow me to introduce Connor Cummings, CEO of Divided Labs. Connor, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Sean. I really appreciate it.
So I want to ask first, I know we were playing some tag over the last couple of weeks. How was the Arnold Classic?
Oh, it was chaotic. So this was my first Arnold going on behalf of Divided Labs. So it was my first time doing the run of meetings and all those things, but it was very productive, and I had a great time when I was out there.
Did you get to catch any of the actual competitions, the bodybuilding competitions?
No, you know what, I didn't. I went out there with my wife, who she's with me a lot in a lot of my business travels. But we walked the expo. We met a lot of the athletes that we knew there, and got to kind of catch up with a lot of people, which was fun for me. And then I also had the opportunity to meet with a lot of ingredient manufacturers and those kind of things, which I felt was really productive going forward for us.
Good. So obviously a fruitful visit for you, or fruitful travel.
Yeah, it was different, man, because in the past, I've done the Arnold, and it was, I was maybe that guy years ago in line to meet athletes and that kind of thing, and this one was a little more business-driven, but, just walking the expo, the energy, getting to catch up with a lot of people who typically I don't get to interact with in person was a lot of fun for me.
Was there anybody there from a bodybuilder or a fitness standpoint competitor that either surprised you or disappointed you, maybe thinking he was bigger, smaller, or just not the personality?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm trying to think of, I saw a lot of the athletes, who was probably bigger there. To be honest with you, a lot of the athletes to me in person, they actually, they always appear a little bit, more impressive in ads, because, not all of them are fully conditioned. The ones that were competing there, everybody, looks phenomenal. Even you look at the Arnold Amateur, and those guys look like professionals. So I'm a fan of bodybuilding at heart. So when I do kind of catch a glimpse of the stage or that kind of thing, I'm always extremely impressed by that level of condition that those athletes bring, especially when you get to see it in person.
Oh no, I agree. Everybody always says that bodybuilders either they're surprised at how small they look, or how impressive they are, but then when they're standing in the lineup, it's even more impressive. Just when you think Phil Heath at 250 is a monster, you get Big Ramy standing next to him at 270, and the progress goes on. Yeah,
actually, now that I saw Phil and Dexter at their booth, and I will say in person, I've seen him many years ago at the Arnold, and today, and Dexter, I don't know what fountain that guy's drinking out of, but he looks much bigger now, 5 years down the road, than he did even 5 years ago. So that guy's found the fountain of youth or something, because he was, in person, I was actually pretty impressed by how much bigger Dexter looks even compared to about 5 years ago. He's aged quite a bit since then.
He's actually one of my favorite bodybuilders, and not just saying that, but yeah, and I think what's even more impressive is that he doesn't go off season per se, put on 50 pounds. I think he fluctuates 20 pounds. So even off season, he still looks ripped and shredded to a point.
Yeah, and I think that's why Dexter's had the opportunity to compete as long as he has, because when you keep in mind your health and your vitality and all those things, there's a reason why Dexter, at however old he is, at 46 or whatever, is still improving. Because someone who stays in shape year round like that clearly keeps their health in mind and is going to have a longer career because of that.
Yes, but I think you hit it on the head. Whatever fountain of youth he found, more power to him. He's still up there, kicking ass and taking names.
He was impressive.
But we digress. So let's tell me a little bit more about Divided Labs. How long has you guys been in business, and we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So Divided Labs, we're about 2 years old right now. So we've been progressing very quickly in the last 6 months especially, and these 6 months ahead are going to be pretty big for us. I mean, business is booming. A little bit about what Divided Labs is. So I'll kind of get into how I was originally in the supplement industry, and then that'll lead into exactly the formation of Divided Labs. So I was originally, at a young age, I was a bodybuilder, and then I actually, through bodybuilding connections, I was able to get a career in the industry, and I worked for a large e-retail purchasing company. I was the purchaser for a large e-retailer. So what that allowed me the opportunity to do is it really allowed me at an ownership level to interact with pretty much the owners or your top dogs at every brand. And really, at a young age, I got a good look inside of this industry. And, there's so many talented people in this industry and people who are moving it forward. I personally saw a lot of gaps in the industry where I'm a person of passion. So where I saw those gaps, I'm also an entrepreneur. I really wanted to follow my instinct and fill in those gaps, because where those gaps were just passion being put into product. I mean, behind the scenes, with a lot of these companies, it's so profit driven. There's not a passion for product or performance. I'm going to be in this industry for a long time. So it's important for me to kind of get out of what the industry norm is, and then to be able to just purely follow my passion without any restrictions. And Divided Labs was born in that. And the word divided for me really signifies being separated from the industry. So it's that word alone. It always reminds me every phase we go into because in business there's always shortcuts. There's always things to do things that are very profitable. But the word divided always reminds me to be separated and purely be doing this out of passion and creating the best possible products.
Wow, and I like that. And also, you're a certified personal trainer.
Yes, yeah. So my training career at this Divided is really so I've always been certified. I keep a limited client base. I'm not someone who likes to necessarily do a ton of online training. If you follow me on social media, I'm starting to put a lot more content out there as far as tips and advice. And, I have a very different story. And I think it's relative to people in their own training. So I try to inform people as much as possible. As far as me and my clients, I have a very small portfolio of them that I really don't take on too many more. But with Divided, it's kind of growing as fast as it is. The training is something that I just do out of passion.
Now, with your limited portfolio that you mentioned, is it more towards, what's the demographic for your training? Is it more people that maybe are overweight, want to better themselves, or are you helping people get ready for shows?
So yeah, I've done contest preps. So that was kind of the arena that I naturally fell into when I first started training. But as my story has progressed, it's gotten out there more. It's definitely attracted a lot of people. Because if you follow it, I'm a drug-free bodybuilder. So I get a lot of executives, people like that who are just, they have an hour a day. They want to maximize what they're doing in the gym, and they want to look good, and they want to do it in a healthy manner. So, I mean, most people, the bodybuilding crowd tends to have this idea of do whatever it takes to look a certain way. And a lot of my clients, we really start at health, and then within the context of that, build out the maximum physique we can. And honestly, using that approach by keeping your health, as we were just talking about with Dexter, keeping your health in check, your body is going to perform optimally in that environment. So most of my clients are just people who are looking to maximize their physiques within the context of a busy life.
Interesting. Now, Connor, you've used the word your story a few times. Maybe you can spend a minute or two and talk about your story per se. Yes,
absolutely. So for those of you who haven't seen on social media or that kind of thing, I'll give a quick rundown just kind of into the different phases. So when I first started in this industry, I started as a teenage bodybuilder. So this was years ago. probably 2007, somewhere around there. I started purely being a competitor. The bodybuilding for me was a great outlet. It taught me a lot of life skills that have translated into business for me now. And there was a lot of positive I took out of that chapter. Being forced, kind of when you're young in the sport, you just follow as you're told, which can be kind of dangerous with a lot of the trainers these days. So, I got wrapped up in a lot of the steroid and drug use. At about 24 years old, I kind of just hit the brakes. I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. My health was not good. I just had blown out my shoulder actually after I won a show called The Wings of Strength here in Chicago. It's an NPC show. It's a pro and amateur, so it was an amateur show, and I won the heavyweight class. Yeah, in Gardner, exactly. So it was the first year that he had the show, and I won the heavyweight class there that year. I lost in the overall, but right after the show, I blew out my shoulder, and that just kind of made me assess a lot of things. And at that point, I was not happy the road I went down personally. So what I decided to do was step away from the sport, and then that's when I started working as the director of vendor relations for an e-retail channel out here in Chicago, and I really got obsessed into the business side of things. And shortly after that, I was diagnosed with cancer 6 months after probably leaving the sport. So man, you talk about you losing your edge. First I walked away from the drug use, which I was still training and trying to keep up, but then the cancer came, so that was a whole another chapter of life for me. And coming out of cancer.
Can I ask you what type of cancer you had, if you don't mind me asking?
Sorry, you broke up there. Say that one more time.
Oh, can I ask you what type of cancer you had?
Yes, so I had testicular cancer, but it was a stage 2 cancer.
Okay, I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah, no problem. So what happened from there is so coming out of that, it actually revitalized me. I drew a lot of strength and perspective from there, and I was so far removed from the sport at that point that it kind of allowed me to come back into this industry my way. I was a little more mature. I was able to do it on my terms. So I've kind of become obsessed from that point with maximizing human performance, maximizing physique. I still personally myself walk the walk, as you can say, and you'll see in my training. I'm regularly squatting 500 pounds. I carry still a good physique, but because of what I went through with cancer, I do have a focus on overall health and well-being as well, too.
Sure. So, no, congratulations on that. And I know it's touching, and I appreciate you sharing that with myself and the listeners. And congratulations on beating it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's, I get to interact with a lot of people these days. And, my main goal with kind of having the story that I do is I was able to draw a lot of strength and empowerment and perspective of life out of what I went through, and through Divided and the whole attitude of Divided, to be able to, kind of put that into people for whatever they're trying to overcome or whatever they're chasing is really the main mission behind our brand.
So let's dive a little bit more into that. I know you've got a few good products, and I'd love to kind of talk a little bit out loud about some of the products and efficacies and what people can expect from them.
Yes, absolutely. So we have 3 SKUs right now. We're working on our 4th product that'll be out shortly here. So I'll start with our flagship, which was the very first product, and it's actually going to tie into what we just talked about. So the first product that we have is called the Verge Max. It's the original Divided Labs product. So what we have in there is it's a very common muscle building ingredient that you'll see around, a 5A hydroxylaxogenin. Now, every item in this SKU is for maximizing muscle growth, but it's non-hormonal, so it's not gonna mess up your natural hormones. It's safe for men or women. There's no toxicity. So you can see from my story how I'm someone who's never going to settle for second, but also being health conscious. This product was then formed. So we have 50 milligrams per capsule of the laxogenin. We do use the trademark source laxosterone. Obviously, using a trademark, what that's doing is just kind of giving you a cookie trail back to the source. so you know exactly what you're putting in your body, which I think is extremely important in this industry.
No, definitely.
And then,
so is this? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
No. You. I was going off on a tangent here for a minute. No, please continue with the ingredients.
Okay, so it's lactosterone, and then the second. So what lactosterone is going to be in the bodybuilding world, people will say it's very similar to an anavar, and it does perform very similar to that. It's going to help with protein synthesis. In studies, it's been shown to increase protein synthesis by over 250%. So basically, you're going to maximize your food consumption. During your training, you're going to notice within about 6 to 10 days a pretty impressive increase in strength. And then you're also going to have much bigger pumps, much better muscle fullness, and it'll also increase metabolism. Or if you're in the off season, you're going to be able to get a little more food in due to the effect of it. The second ingredient in there is going to be epicatechin. Now this ingredient's really great. So we all like to bang the weights and train heavy on a regular basis. So what epicatechin will do is it actually aids your central nervous system from not wearing down, which means you're able to train more often while still in an optimal state of your body. It's been shown to increase central nervous system firing and strength. So typically what they do in these studies is they'll do a hand grip test, and they'll test hand grip strength because that's usually a pretty good indicator of your overall, how your central nervous system is firing. So with epicatechin, within 1 week, they notice significant increases in hand grip strength without any training. So what this ingredient is going to do is it's going to increase your strength, vascularity, it's going to oxidize fat tissue, and then partnered with both of those anabolics, we have the bioperin in there, which is basically going to help with the absorption of both ingredients.
Now with this, is it one capsule a day or is it multiple capsules?
2 capsules a day. So it's a 60 capsule container, and so you do it with meals. So I always do my pre-workout meal, which is in the morning, and then I also do it in the evening. One thing I'll say with both of these ingredients, and I tested them in a lot of environments, because you'll see them, they're getting more popular in the industry as we've done extremely well with this item, and we have a very loyal following, and you see many more brands kind of following suit with these ingredients, but they need to be really taken with meals. A lot of companies that are putting them in BCAAs or that kind of thing, the absorption rate's just not there. You really want to take it with food.
Is it something specifically in the food, like a carbohydrate shuttle, or is there something more to it that we're not aware of?
No, the food is just going to help with the absorption of it. Both ingredients have from the actual ingredient manufacturer, that's how they've always suggested taking it, and that's just going to maximize your absorption rate of it.
And as you mentioned earlier, this is a versatile product for both males and females.
Male and females, yeah, and women love it too. Men, it's a phenomenal product. You'll see it in my own training. And that's another great thing is, as I test these things, as someone who doesn't use anabolic steroids, believe me, when I create products, I'm putting everything I have into them because I'm using them myself as well. And I'm not someone who, like I said, ever tries to settle for second. So for men, it's phenomenal. It'll be one of the strongest muscle builders you can use out there. Definitely one of the most effective. The great thing is for women as well, there's not a lot of things that are safe for women to use out there without secondary side effects and things like that. So for women to have an anabolic product that's not going to mess with their hormones at all, I can't really think of anything else out there that I would trust. If I was going to give my wife something, which she uses the product as well, you want to be careful what you put into female clients or into your female athletes, just because these days, a lot of these guys, it works for them, and then they give them to their girlfriends, and then it just, you know how that road goes.
Yeah, exactly. Connor, would you recommend that product for someone that's maybe more on the leaner side versus someone that maybe is a little overweight and trying to do their best to better themselves?
I'd recommend it for anybody at any level. That's the thing too. It's really good in cutting, but what it's basically doing is it's creating a more anabolic environment within the body. So there's going to be huge benefit. If you're in the off season trying to put on muscle, there's a huge benefit to that. So, you're going to be able to eat more food. The protein's going to synthesize more efficiently, so you're going to be absorbing the food. And then you're going to be a lot stronger, able to push more weight and pack on the muscle. Now, on the flip side, for someone who's cutting, staying anabolic is extremely important in that environment as well, because you need to maintain the muscle mass. You don't want to, how many people do you see cut and then end up getting stringy, where something like this is going to help you maintain the muscle mass, give you that tighter look, more of the bodybuilding type look. I mean, the main thing in bodybuilding, even going back to those days, was maintaining the muscle mass while you cut. So creating this anabolic environment is going to allow you to do that.
Gotcha. No, I appreciate that. I've had the pleasure to try a competitor's brand and was very happy with it. But like you said, it for me it was a lot increased strength and definitely kept some muscle fullness on me personally. Yes, and where Divergent X shines is really in our sourcing. So there's other laxogenins out there. I can tell you from an ownership standpoint, when you purchase it, the things that you see on the market are anywhere from 30, 50, 60% pure. Now, with the trademark source we use, you're at a minimum of 92%. So this ingredient, laxogenin, doesn't necessarily absorb that efficiently in the human body. So you need to have a full dose, and you need to have a high yield of the actual source that you're using in order to get the maximum benefit of it. And again, just to reiterate one more time, 2 times a day, both with meals, or 1 capsule 2 times a day with meals. Correct, yeah. Well, and keep those meals separate. So if you train in the morning, take it with your pre-workout meal and then maybe with your last meal. And then if you train at night, just take it with breakfast and then take it with your pre-training meal. You just want to have those doses kind of separated out. Gotcha. And you got two more great products in the line as well. Yes, and then the next one we'll go into, these are going to be more traditional categories. We have Previde, which is our pre-workout. So what we did when we created Previde is we literally just created, I don't like the whole idea of selling someone a pre-workout and a pump powder separately. So we put everything into one. I mean, to me, that doesn't make any sense. When I was creating Divided Labs, I didn't want someone to go into a store and buy our pre-workout and not get the full effect because they didn't have the money to buy a second product. So we literally took everything we would have done in 2 SKUs and packed it all into Previde. There's 13 ingredients in Previde. We have a strength and power matrix in there, which has betaine, taurine, alpha GPC, elevate ATP. We have a pump and endurance things with your citrulline, your beta-alanine, your Hydromax, your Agmapure. And then for our energy focus, we have a unique 3H blend with theobromine and caffeine. And what I really moderately dose the stimulants at 1 scoop. At 2 scoops, it's a little more aggressive. Because what this product is going to do, it's going to give you a crazy pump. That's what everyone says from Previde, is they can't believe the pump and the blood volume they get from it. And it's going to give you a ton of endurance, focus, and strength. But I also wanted to create a stimulant profile that doesn't tax the adrenals and is something that you can use on a regular basis that's not going to be detrimental to your training. Because that category, from a creative standpoint, what's popular these days really isn't effective as far as getting a result in the gym. It's actually counterproductive. So Previde's one of those pre-workouts that is going to actually give you a performance edge and yield a result from the training session. Here's the one thing that attracted me most, and one of the reasons why I reached out to you, Connor, to get you on the show here, because I looked at Previde, and this is my own personal opinion. Take it, listeners, for what it is. The 3 things that stuck out to me, especially with Previde, you don't have creatine, because I have overactive kidneys that produce a lot of creatinine, so I can't take creatine. You've got a good blend of the caffeine, because I'm a stim sensitive guy, and I keep myself that way. So I like that, and also the fact, third and foremost, is you full disclosure label. So kudos to that. Yes, and if you notice on our label too, we have a full disclosure label, and everything in our lineup, we have the full disclosure at 1 scoop, full disclosure at 2 scoops. And the reason for that is I interact with so many different people from so many walks of life, and we really want to have our products be available. If someone, like you said, if you're sensitive to stimulants, we want to have a great profile at 1 scoop. But if you're a top level bodybuilder, I have people who use our products to get ready for the Olympia. I don't pay them, so I can't say their name, but they love the profile here. So at 2 scoops, I have someone who's just getting into the industry looking for a good pre-workout who can buy my products, and I have top level competitors who are getting ready for the Olympia using my product. And that's why we kind of have the 1 and 2 scoop on every product. That way it's versatile for really whatever level you're at, whatever sensitivities you might have to products. This is a product that's available to everybody. Connor, have you taken a personal survey on if people are erring towards the 1 scoop or 2 scoop?
Me personally, I use it at 2 scoops. But most of our consumers, honestly, they usually say like 1.5. It depends who you're talking to. I would say if it's someone who's, your heart at 2 scoops is strong. I mean, you're looking at 350 milligrams of caffeine at that point, 200 milligrams of theobromine, and then the other stimulants in there as well. So at 1 scoop, it's going to be a little bit more moderate. I'll say your entry level consumers, people who work out at night especially, like it at the 1 scoop. And then your people who really like a heavy hitter at 2 scoops. I mean, it's going to light you on fire. The pump's going to be crazy. It's going to do everything that you would expect it to do at a higher serving.
Gotcha. Because that's the thing I always talk about on my shows is I think as a society, and again, opinion whether you agree or not, I think our society is leaning too much right now to caffeine. Sort of looking up. Too overcaffeinated. But again, that's just me, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion.
No. Well, one, you're exactly right, and 2, just to put it bluntly, this industry, when it comes to stimulants, is on the side of being pretty idiotic with what we're offering. So, a lot of these stimulants and overstimulating yourself is, if you're looking to put on muscle in the gym and perform at a high level, taxing your nervous system with these ridiculous amount of stimulants and the types of stimulants that companies are using is counterproductive to ever getting a result in the gym. So when I formulated Previde, this is to assist you in training. Do the things that you need to do. You need to focus. You need to get a really good pump and blood flow to the muscle, but it's not going to tax your nervous system or be detrimental to your health.
Yeah, no, and I love it, And you've got one last product, an amino acid blend.
Correct, yes. So we have our AminoVide. So AminoVide is our BCAA supplement. Now, it's much more than a BCAA. So I always call it, it's an intra-workout BCAA. So this is going to support you during the workout. What we do, the first differential that it's kind of getting trendy now. You're starting to see it. We've been doing it since we've had AminoVide, is we have 100% vegetable source BCAAs. So as a food-based BCAA, it's just a much cleaner source. Traditional BCAAs, on the contrary, they come from bird beaks, bird feathers, that's why if you notice with a lot of amino acid products, they have a foul smell to them. And even when you take it might not always sit right in your stomach or your gut. You kind of feel, most people have experienced that with BCAAs, and it's because of the sources that people are deriving them from. So we started off with vegetable source, 100% vegan amino acids. It's not because it's for vegans. It's because that's literally the cleanest source of amino acid you can have, which is going to lead to the highest absorption. And then from there, we have an ingredient called Spectra in there. Spectra, to me, is one of the coolest ingredients in our entire company that we use. So Spectra it's a collection of 30 fruits and greens. And a lot of people always assume when they see that in there that this is for health, which, if you want to use it for that, that's great. But the actual ingredient Spectra at the dose that is in 1 scoop of AminoVide has been clinically proven in human studies to increase nitric oxide levels by 63%. So what you're doing is the pump that Previde kind of starts you with, the AminoVide is going to carry through the workout, and all those antioxidants are also going to fight free radicals that arise from training. From there, we have something called P5 Farm in there. It's the bioavailable form of B6. The reason that's important is that it's very crucial in amino acid metabolism. So by partnering that with the amino acids, it's going to ensure that you're getting the full absorption of them. And then lastly, we have our hydration blend in there, which is going to have things like your organic coconut water. One of the most overlooked things when you're training is obviously your electrolyte profile, and staying hydrated is really, probably more than all this other stuff, crucial to performance. So that's where it kind of rounds out the formula. We're going to have the clean amino acids, you're going to get the nitric oxide boost, and then you're going to stay very well hydrated throughout the workout too. I always say make sure that your last rep is as strong as your first.
That's one of the reasons why I love doing this show, because I always learn something new, and I've never heard of this Spectra before. And for listeners, I definitely encourage you to go visit the website and look at this, because it's almost like an antioxidant, almost like a multivitamin, because you've got acai, which is very high in antioxidants. You've got garlic concentrate, which is great for the blood. You've got basil. You've got elderberry. You've got turmeric in here. It's just a cornucopia of just like really good quality stuff.
and the main thing from the performance standpoint is you notice a crazy pump from it. And what's great about it is, we all use a lot of amino acids to, citrulline, those kind of things to create a pump. But, just doing more and more amino acids isn't, eventually it's going to be too much for the body. So by hitting it from a different angle and still elevating nitric oxide levels, you kind of use amino acids to create a pump, and then use something like Spectra here that's going to create, it just tends, people will notice it when they use it. They just work together to create will absolutely, if you use Prebide and Aminovide together, it'll create the biggest pump you've ever had in your life.
Kind of it's not comfortable in revealing the quote-unquote the special sauce, but with the Spectra, did you read this in a study or just something on a publication? Because I've never heard of this before. I mean, it's really robust. Yeah,
so I'm out of Illinois here, and the company is Futureceuticals, who actually has all the studies and everything for this. But yeah, it's been, Futureceuticals, you'll see it. I'm trying to think of some of the other ingredients they have are starting to catch steam. The Elevate TP is from them as well. So you'll start seeing more and more of them in sports nutrition. I'm starting to see it in more products. The other product that I believe Spectra is in, I'll give them a little plug, is Cage Muscle, I believe, uses it in his pre-workout as well for the same reason, because of the nitric oxide support.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to when we're done, I'll have to definitely do some more research on that, because I'm definitely intrigued with just seeing that alone. Anything in R&D people can look forward to down the road?
Yes, so we're on the cusp of our fourth SKU, and we've had a big demand for. I'm a big carbohydrate guy as far as training carbohydrates, and I've been developing this thing since November and testing it. So that's another thing with products. I don't just put something out there to jump into a category. I really take my time until we get it right. So our entire lineup, we just did a reflavor. So we just upgraded all of our flavorings. So those have been reviewing phenomenally. And then very shortly here, we're going to have our fourth SKU, which will be our carbohydrate product. Now, it's not going to be just like Aminovide, not just amino acid, and Prebide, not just pre-workout. This bad boy is going to have some kick to it, and it's going to be a very high-performance carbohydrate with a couple of additives in there that are going to really boost performance during training. So that's something we're really excited about. It's a couple weeks out until we officially announce it, but we've already gotten past the R&D portion, and now we're just doing like the little sexy things like the flavoring and that kind of thing, finishing that up to get it right.
So is this something that might be an addition or an additive to Aminovide?
Correct. Yes. So yeah, this carbohydrate you're going to want to stack. Whether you use our products or not, it's something that can be stackable with. Ideally, I would use it with a pre-workout or with an amino acid. Prebide and Aminovide obviously would be, your two trusted choices to be able to pair it with. But it's going to deliver the carbohydrates, which everyone does, but it's not going to be as boring as just another carbohydrate. A lot of people just put carbs in there and that's it. We're going to have a couple unique performance ingredients that are going to be different than anything we have in Prebide and Aminovide and are going to stack extremely well with both SKUs.
Now, Connor, do you have your own little presidential cabinet of when you're trying to think of new products, or are you kind of a one-man crew and do this all on your own?
No. I have a lot of people who test the stuff with us. We have we have a lot of athletes on the roster. We have other owners. The thing with Divided is, even with the people who are involved in the business, everyone is. I've been very careful on the business side of who I select, but everyone is extremely passionate about what we do. So if you follow our Instagram, my wife, myself, business partners, people who do our digital marketing and all these things, 100% just live the life. So we have a lot of people who are very passionate about this industry testing out these products. Now, when it comes to formulating them, that's my thing, and then I take input, but I have beliefs, and I spend a lot of time personally putting them to the test. But I'm definitely someone who gathers a lot of input from a lot of people to make sure we're doing something that's not only good for someone who trains at my level, but at any level.
And what about a protein powder? I know everybody always wants to see a protein powder. What's your thoughts on that in your lineup?
Yeah, we do. 2017 is going to be big for us. So we'll have the carb out here probably in about a month or two. And then from there, protein's something the thing with protein is I always say I don't want to go into a category until I can do something that's for the basis of being the best from a performance standpoint, better than anything that's out there. And protein, it's a hard category. We will get. I'll be willing to bet. Now I wouldn't get too excited yet, but for sure by the end of 2017 we should have a protein out.
And it's tough because there's so much of it, and I'm not sharing any secrets, but I know the one issue that companies have is that when it comes to protein, that's the least margin. I mean, let's face it, you want to make customers happy, but of course it's a business, you got to make a little profit. And I know that's one concern that always comes up with some of the smaller companies is there's no margin, so we're going to keep that on the back burner for a moment.
Yeah, and I think what scares a lot of the companies away is one, it's like you said, the least margin, but two, it's the most cost too. So, when you're competing against Post and some of these other huge conglomerates versus who can operate on those thin margins. I mean, as a young company, I mean, you're right to tie up that much money in protein and that kind of thing. Now, I do have different beliefs on protein. I strongly believe, for example, 90% of what you see out there is only a whey isolate or, even the lesser whey concentrate. But I strongly am a believer in using multiple sources of protein post-workout, and all the studies show that. So when we do come out with a protein, it'll probably be something closer along those lines.
Gotcha. So now what else is there to talk about the company? What else might you want to let the listeners know about you and the company?
Yeah, so basically, a great thing to keep in tune with everything that we have going on. The big thing that we have going on right now, like I said, about 2 to 3 weeks ago, we officially launched we revamped the entire line's flavors. We've added new flavors to the AminoVide. So that's been, keeping us busy with our followers. So, following us on social media. We're very social. We make sure to stay in touch on there. And divide it as it evolves. We have products, we have the apparel, we're going to have more promo stuff and, all the traditional stuff. But in the coming months ahead, with my training background and my expertise in that arena, we're very close with our consumers. So it's going to become a platform with a lot of free information. As someone who, my main goal in this industry is to give people relative value that they can then use in their life to actually have a benefit. I mean, following what so-and-so pro bodybuilder does in his training, using this, and this, when you might not be using those things, isn't really relative to the consumer. So, following my story, my comeback, everything that goes into that, we're going to have a lot of articles, a lot of content that consumers can then use in their own pursuits to ultimately get after, being the best themselves.
And kind of, will you be returning to the stage again, or is that kind of a thing of the past now with you?
I've been getting a lot of people who have been even promoters. I've had a couple different conversations about people who just think that'd be a cool way to kind of put the stamp on things and get back there. If I'm being honest, one of my goals personally was, the last time I was on stage, I used drugs. So I'm 110% certain that I can compete naturally at a higher level than I did with drugs. And I really want to do that to prove the point of how so many people's focus is on the wrong things when it comes to their approaches and their competition career. So that definitely will be part of it. I would say with how fast Divided is growing at this point, I just have to find the right time, because I have a lot of people who support the brand, a lot of our retailers who are behind the brand, and I'm someone, when I do something, man, I go all in. So I have to make sure that with everything that's going on with Divided right now, I would say maybe a couple months down the road, I can kind of toy around with that idea and maybe pick something and see what we can do.
Kind of from one competitor to another, I used to compete many years ago as well in bodybuilding. Now, in your opinion, which is harder, diet, exercise, or getting in front of people in your posing trunks?
For me as a competitor, I love just the process of getting ready. I never really liked the show. You know what I mean? Like, I love the process. I love kind of finding myself in that 16 weeks and kind of being in the trenches and the sacrifice and kind of the brotherhood of it. And, since I compete, so to bring it back, when I competed was the first year they had men's physique. So this industry has changed quite a bit since then, and it's not really the tight-knit brotherhood of just bodybuilders that it used to be. Now it's kind of like a category for everybody, which, I'm not someone who's down on that. I mean, I think anyone who's bettering their lives, if there's whatever category there is for you that you're doing something positive and pursuing, I'm all for it. So it's a little bit different cultural-wise now. But I'm kind of interested to take the old school approach to bodybuilding, and I'm pretty confident, staying side by side with some of these people who weren't part of that, I could be pretty successful on stage again.
What are your thoughts on the new classic division, which is
in
that fitness and bodybuilding?
I love it. What I love about the classic is, and to each is their own. I'm just being 100% honest with my pursuit here. Is I love the idea that there's a division now that you can do everything, but you don't have to, doing classic physique would make no sense to use a massive amount of drugs. So for me, it's to me, when I see classic bodybuilding, I basically just see healthier bodybuilding. If you train your ass off, you diet hard, those weight divisions aren't that high, so you really can't be too big. So you can maintain optimal health. You don't have to sacrifice your health, and I believe you can compete at a very high level in classic. I mean, to say that you can, for example, if I were to tell you, could you be a top level bodybuilder in classic healthy? The answer is to me, yeah, most likely. If I said, could you be a top level IFBB pro in open bodybuilding, you're probably not going to be too healthy. So, you know what I mean? It kind of opens that door for health to be a staple of our industry again.
No, and I agree. I'm a little bit older than you. I want to assume. So aside from Dexter Jackson, going back years ago, one of my favorites was a bodybuilder called Darren Charles, who was a very well-ranked professional bodybuilder. And last year he showed up on a classic show. That looked phenomenal. He competed maybe 230 back in the day. He was 190, but like you said, people look great, but they also look a little bit healthier.
Yeah, and there's a perfect example of that, because I don't want to speak for Darren, but I know Darren has publicly said even that he doesn't use drugs anymore, and that division kind of created that opportunity, and because of that, Darren's going to have a lot longer of a career. I mean, to have that look, if you work hard and you follow true bodybuilding principles, you shouldn't need any drugs to be successful in that sport. And I think the more that we have that mentality, it's just great to be able to have a division where you don't have to compromise your health while you can still compete at the highest level of that division.
Yes, I agree. Connor, as things wind down a little bit here, I just kind of launched a new section of the show, or a new segment of the show called 5 Random Questions. So I'm going to ask you some more or affiliated with us, and some of them are just kind of random, just to give people a better understanding of you. So I'm just going to kind of rapidly fire 5 out. First thing that comes to your mind. What was the first supplement you've ever used?
Saltec, and I threw up.
Was it because of the alpha-lipoic acid?
No, I think it was because I had, now, before you rip on me too much, I was like a high school kid. I had to be 13 or 14, so, it was the Saltec, and it had all that sugar in there. It was like 70 grams of sugar and the creatine, and I ate like Wendy's and then drank Saltec right after that, which I had no idea what I was doing, but that was the first one. And, not a bad supplement, but it was just an immature user at the time.
What's the least favorite exercise that you do?
Least favorite, I would say, is abs. It's an area or core, I will say. I mean, you don't want to avoid it. It's very crucial to the overall movement pattern of the body. But I'm someone who likes to get under heavy squats. I like to pull heavy weight on deadlifts. So doing those kind of fruity ab exercises have never really been my thing.
Is it just abs in general, whether it's upper, lower, obliques, just abs in general?
Just abs in general, yeah. I mean, because of the rest schemes for abs and, not always really using a lot of weight. Like when I'm in the gym, I like to move weight. So if that's my mentality, then abs are not going to be that fun.
Favorite bodybuilder, past, present, current?
I'll kind of go with
any generation.
From what was that?
From any generation. Doesn't have to be current.
Okay, any generation. You know, and not just because it's the flavor of the week, but I was extremely impressed by Cedric McMillan, not only from a physique standpoint, kind of him just continually doing his thing. He's got a phenomenal physique. I think in bodybuilding, as we were talking about, it's going to bring it back to building physiques and not just building size. And then also how gracious he was in his win. It's hard not to cheer for that guy, especially going into the Olympia this year.
Did you see his interaction with Arnold after the show? Not after the show, but I guess when they were on stage together. Did you see that video?
Yeah. Cedric's the man. I mean, the thing is that the guy's never compromised his beliefs. He's always kept bringing that same physique that he has, which is a phenomenal physique. And then to be that big with that kind of shape and structure with the tight waist and, you know, it was great to, see him rewarded for that, but then also when he was rewarded with that, to give the speech that he did. You know, that's what it's all about for me, man. It's leading the industry in a positive way, and I think if that guy is at the steering wheel right now, then the industry is headed in the right direction.
We can only hope. It seems to go back and forth, but, you know, we can have another show on that. Best movie you've ever seen to date?
Best movie I've ever seen to date. Ooh, that's a good one. The one that came to my mind is Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith. I personally drew a lot from that movie of just seeing someone who just had a ton of self-belief and an incredible work ethic, which is something I try to carry with myself every step of my own personal journey.
And if people haven't seen it, Will Smith can never go wrong. Most of the time, can never go wrong with a Will Smith movie.
Most of the time, you never know. Yeah.
Last question: what song or group did you listen to training today or yesterday? Well, I guess what was in your iPod or whatever you listened to.
I have a large variety of music. But the one I'm getting kind of into right now, just because it kind of gets me jacked up. I like the rap music, and so Machine Gun Kelly. He's a high energy guy. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but
I am.
So Machine Gun Kelly, he's got great energy, and lyrically I enjoy it as well. So I was definitely bumping that today.
Perfect. Well, Connor, I appreciate you playing the game here. You know, in closing, you know, why don't you let the people know where people can learn more about you? Yes,
absolutely. So social media is going to be the best way. On Facebook, if you search me, Connor Cummings, you'll see me on there. On Instagram, I'm at Divided Labs Connor. So I'll be on there. You know, following kind of my journey eventually back to the stage from what I went through, you know, and what I tend to do is to be honest with you, man, I mean, the best thing about getting back into the industry and kind of doing it my way is the interaction I've had with people, the great friendships I've formed, and I'm an open book. So if people message me and they have questions about, they see me doing something in the gym and they want to know how this and this works, always feel free to message me. I get back to everybody typically within one day. And ultimately, what I want to do is to be able to do something phenomenal in my own pursuit, but then be able to use that same knowledge to powerfully empower someone to then do that themselves for whatever they're looking to overcome.
Perfect. Well, thank you once again to Connor Cummings of Divided Labs and for downloading us on iTunes, Podcast Garden, and YouTube. Please be sure to subscribe and rate the different programs where you subscribe to. Stay tuned as another episode of Stack Supplement Minute is up next. Have a great week. Stack Supplement Minute. Calling in directly from Germany, as always, my co-pilot, Shane Smith. Shane, how are you, buddy?
Good, thanks. It's good to be on again.
So what's the latest and greatest this week? There's a lot of things going on, I see.
So, I mean, the week basically kicked off pretty big with the news of Cellucor, the parent company of Cellucor, Nutrabolt, who also owns FitJoy and Royal Sport. They bought Civation, and get that news landed Monday morning. And I actually had a talk with Doss, who was the CEO of Nutrabolt, before the thing went out. And I basically asked him a few, what I believe were important questions, not necessarily your typical press release questions, but I just had the same questions I think consumers did, and that was, most importantly, is this going to affect the extend range, the Civation range in any way? And they said no. And same with when I asked about the team, whether that would change at Scivation, and they were saying basically Scivation's just staying as is. They're not gonna C4 it up, do what they do with their line with Extend or anything like that, which is what I was concerned about, and which was what a lot of people were concerned about when the news came out. And
sure.
So we answered that in the post, and they informed me that they're not going to do anything. They bought Scivation because they admire it and because they think it's a great company, and obviously changing anything with that dynamic would probably make it a company they not necessarily admire. So they're keeping things as much as everything the same from what I understood, and Extend fans can look forward to the same Extend and the same innovation that Scivation has come to be known for.
Nice. So at the end of the day, there'll still be two kind of independent companies, but now one new parent company.
I think my question, I was just I asked them, I was like, okay, so you're going to be just as competitive with one another as you were yesterday, and they said, yeah. So, I mean, they're still basically two very separate companies. It's just owned by a Nutrabolt.
Gotcha. Interesting.
And on the topic of Cellucor, they also launched, I actually don't know if it's out too much just yet. It was difficult getting information on this, but they introduced at least a new version of P6. And P6 already came in a variety of different versions. They have P6 Chrome and P6 Red, P6, I think it's PM. There was P6 Black back in the day, and for those who don't know, P6 is Cellucor's testosterone booster. Mm. And the new one is called P6 Ripped, which, as you could probably guess if you know P6, is essentially testosterone boosting mixed with weight loss. So they've kind of put together a blend of two proprietary blends in the product. One's essentially for testosterone, which includes things like ashwagandha and fenugreek, and then they have one for weight loss or kind of thermogenesis, and that features things like caffeine, Capsimax, and they also have it's a kind of a new, I think it's a new form or a trademark form of caffeine called ZUMXR, and that was also in their Super HD Fire that they literally just dropped a week or two ago as well.
Interesting.
And I've got plenty of news as well coming from Germany. As I was saying, because we're here for the FIBO Expo, which is the largest expo I'd say in the world, and probably some of the most interesting news is Optimum Nutrition. They dropped a new flavor here. It's not. I think it's available for sample, or I didn't join the line to try it or something. But it's white chocolate raspberry.
Wow.
It's a new flavor. It's not in the US, and it's just been teased for Europe. And as with most new products here, I can't be sure that it's going to be European only. But in the past, a lot of brands will usually launch it here. But for now, we only know it's in Europe. And in BSN is another big one. And they last year they didn't really have much for FIBO, but this year they got 3 limited edition Syntha 6 flavors with strawberry cream swirl, chocolate mudslide, and New York vanilla cheesecake. And that, as far as we know, is only going to be available in Europe. And then they also did 3 new flavors for Amino X, which, unlike the Syntha 6 ones, aren't being promoted as limited edition. So, from my understanding, they're permanent, and they're not your typical US flavors. They're European, and they're all cola inspired. So there's classic cola, lime cola, and cherry cola. And the another one that's a big US brand here is Smart Shake, and they actually have 2 new colors that are exclusive to the distributor in Europe, kind of camo, pink and white. There's one's white, black and grey, and the other one's pink and black. And they've also got an entirely new Smart Shake, and when I was talking to them, we kind of got lost in translation, and they didn't quite. I was asking if it was going to be available everywhere, and they kept saying they only had 200 bottles or something, but it's a new double wall shaker, and what's kind of got two highlights to it. The first is that it keeps its contents cold or hot, whatever you put in it, and then it also has this kind of slip-out cup. And what you can do, or what they do, is they have templates and prints that you can print out, and they wrap around inside the shaker. And so the idea is that you can kind of put your own patterns or your own pictures and kind of customize it to however you want. And it's available. The cup itself is clear, and the lid comes in 4 different colors. You got black, blue, pink, and white. And again, I asked them if it was going to be like available everywhere, but all I got was that it was only a limited that they'd put together just for FIBO. So sometimes things like turn out to be like tests, and then they go ahead and launch it. But as far as I know, it's FIBO only, and it's 10 euros, which is I think it's maybe like 11 or 12 US dollars. So it's not too badly priced, and that's And one more brand I'd like to highlight, and this is not a brand you'll probably find in the US, but it's one that it's got a great name going for it, and they're extremely creative when it comes to food and high protein snacks, and it's called Got7, and they do have your traditional protein bars and kind of other supplements like that, but their main focus is kind of unique snacks, and they've come to FIBO with I think it's like 7 or 8 new products. They have a high protein pancake mix. They have a high protein pizza base. They also have a new high protein bag of nachos with low sugar, high fiber, and it comes with, you can buy it with I believe it's a 20 calorie nacho dip. They also have 2 new sauces, 0 calorie sauces with a curry ketchup and a pineapple chili, and I can tell you that those things are delicious. They have them available for sampling, but there are two other releases which I think are probably the biggest ones here. They're like a kind of like a wafer type bar. They have a wafer one that's kind of filled with layers of chocolate, and they have one that's filled with literally a block of chocolate. What? And it's really you kind of think that it's bullshit. And I asked the guy, I said to him, I was like, this tastes like legit chocolate. He said, no, it's kind of like other brands do it, but they've sort of, instead of making that the only feature, they've kind of squeezed it in and kind of made it look like a wafer ice cream thing, but it's kind of hard. And when you bite into it, it tastes just incredible. And the idea they were saying behind a lot of their products is that they don't try to make things super healthy, like, mega low calorie that bodybuilding dieters want. They kind of bridge the gap between like super healthy and fat loaded, sugary loaded snacks. So, they do have a little bit of calories in them, but it doesn't come from, bad fats, and doesn't come from they try, I guess, get a good mix between the two. The owner, he actually showed us another product that he has coming soon that probably won't be posting about for a while, called Choco Beans, and it's essentially it's his version of Smarties. Now, I don't know if you actually know what Smarties are.
Yes, I know. It's an older candy. I remember trick-or-treating 30 years ago and getting them.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, it's still big in like a lot of countries like the UK, Europe, and Australia. They still kind of have it like a cheap M&M type thing. And the guy pulled out a bag of what looked to be, he said, these are my Smarties. And I was like, oh, cool. And he gave me some, and I thought they were legit Smarties. And then he says, these will be launching in 3 weeks. And I was like, holy shit, he said, yeah, no, these aren't real Smarties. I made these. I think he said it was stevia flavored, 0 sugar, and I swear to God, they could pass as Smarties. Not as M&Ms, but if you've had Smarties before, you'll know the kind of difference there is, but they were incredible. And if you ever have a chance of trying anything from the brand, if you visit Europe or you see them online, it's a must. The brand, their stuff is just next level, especially compared to a lot of US snacks and stuff
Shane,
like
you
that.
mentioned that they're only internationally. Do you think they'll eventually come domestic, or did I understand it's only internationally right now?
They're from what I understand, they're in a lot of European countries and they're trying to expand. But and I think you can buy online in maybe like 7 or 8 European countries. But it's just because it's such a small team, and I don't know why. He said that, you know, when he told me how much it's selling and stuff like that, it's very difficult to get into the US market when you're coming from the outside. And I hear that from a lot of European brands, and so I mean that's why you don't really see too many into the US market unless they're absolutely massive, like MyProtein and Cytec. So it's very difficult for the smaller ones to do it. But you know, he said he's definitely trying to get his line in there. But I tell you, it's definitely an interesting one, a unique one, and I mean the products do have a little bit of more calories. But I mean, if you're someone who doesn't really mind 50 more calories, like their stuff is just incredible.
For people here domestically that aren't truly familiar with FIBO, what you're explaining, is it the size of an Olympia, in between an Arnold and Olympia? What's kind of like the size?
If you've been to the Olympia, and you've been to the Arnold, because those two are very different in itself. Olympia is very spaced out, and there's a lot of people, but you got room to breathe. Whereas the Arnold's kind of big space, but you know the aisles aren't big, and there's just a shit ton of people. So I mean, it's kind of it is literally a mixture of both. The Olympia, if you can take the Olympia size halls, and I would say that you've got about 1.5 times that in terms of size. You've got just absolutely nowhere to move at times in terms of people, but then FIBO also has downstairs. And so when you go downstairs, it's pretty much the same. It's just full on. It's just huge. I mean, for me to get through the Olympia and the Arnold and visit everyone, when no one's around, I could probably do it maybe in an hour or two. Here, we have to break things up into 2 days. I can probably get through the top floor in 2 to 3 hours, and I have to come back for the bottom floor.
Out of all three, which do you personally enjoy?
For me, I like the Olympia because it's comfortable, and people tend to bring a lot of new stuff to the Olympia. The Arnold, you get just as much stuff, but it's difficult to get around. It's difficult to talk to people. But I'd actually probably say I like FIBO the most because it's very different in terms of market. You know, I'm used to the pre-workouts, the aminos, the BCAAs, proteins. You come here and you get like maple syrup and Greek yogurt flavored protein powder. You don't just get really weird things, and it's good to see how different it is, and it's interesting to see how normal it is to people around here. So I mean, it's a lot nicer in the morning when no one's around because it opens a little later. But and there's a lot more new stuff for FIBO. Whereas in the US, you've kind of got an endless supply of expos for people to launch stuff, and at FIBO, European brands really only have FIBO. Like that's probably one of the biggest, and so they kind of save all their new releases for the show.
Interesting. So, in closing, Shane, anything else to let the listeners know about this week?
To be honest, we haven't finished with FIBO, so we might have more news when we go back. But yeah, as it is. Actually, no, I think that's about it. To be honest, I would say just stay tuned to Stack for more. If you go to stack.live, you go to that, and it's actually a dedicated kind of section that filters just the live post that we write from the expo.
Excellent. I'll have to tune into that. And for the folks listening, that's STAC and the number 3D .live. And as always, we appreciate Shane, your time, safe travels, and thank you for tuning in, listeners. Have a great rest of the week.
Bye.